Isabella was a stunning woman, born into a prominent and powerful family. Yet, despite her advantages, she was unlucky in many ways. Isabella fell deeply in love and married a man she thought would bring her happiness, but their marriage quickly became mundane and hollow. Though they had 3 wonderful children, 1 son and 2 daughters, Isabella didn't feel the love she had hoped for. She pretended to care, but inside, she knew that her heart wasn't there. Her husband, Robert, worked in a city office, but his job was far from lucrative, and he often struggled to make ends meet. Isabella didn't know how to generate income herself, and together, they spent more than they earned. Financial stress began to weigh heavily on their lives. They lived in a charming house with a lovely garden, and their home was filled with expensive furnishings and toys. Their children had everything they could wish for, yet at times, it felt as though there was an invisible presence in the house. A strange whisper seemed to hang in the air, though no one ever spoke of it. The voice whispered relentlessly, "There must be more money." Isabella's son, Alex, often asked questions about their family's situation. One day he asked, "Why don't we have our own car, Mom?" "Because we're the less fortunate side of the family," she replied. "But why are we poor?" Alex asked again, his curiosity piqued. Isabella's response was cold and distant. "It's because your father hasn't had any luck." "Is luck the same as money?" Alex asked innocently. "No," Isabella answered, her voice sharp. "Luck brings money. If you're lucky, you will always have more money. But if you're rich, you might lose it." Alex pondered this for a moment. "So, is Dad unlucky?" he asked. "Very unlucky," Isabella said bitterly. Alex's thoughts soon turned to a different kind of luck. He had an old rocking horse in his nursery, the room where he and his sisters played. He would ride the wooden horse furiously, imagining that it could take him to the place where luck lived. Sometimes he would strike the horse's neck, urging it to go faster, desperate for the luck that seemed to elude his family. Isabella's brother, James, often visited their home. One day he walked into the nursery while Alex was riding the horse. "What's this?" "A jockey in training," James joked. Alex stopped and climbed off the horse, a little out of breath. "Its name is Jetstream," he said. "Jetstream?" James raised an eyebrow. "That's the name of the horse that won the big race at the Grand Derby, isn't it?" Alex nodded. "I heard about it from Tom. He works in the garden and he used to know a lot about horses. He says Jetstream is lucky." James was intrigued. "Does Tom talk about horse races a lot?" "Yes," Alex replied. "He even helped me pick the name." James smiled. "It sounds like you're getting quite the education on racing yourself, little one." Later, James took Alex on a drive and asked, "Do you ever bet money on races?" Alex hesitated but then responded, "I only know one thing. Jetstream is going to win the next race." "You sure about that?" James asked, intrigued by Alex's confidence. "I'm certain," Alex said. "I'm betting everything on it." "How much are you betting?" James asked, surprised by the seriousness in Alex's voice. £400, Alex said calmly. James was taken aback. 400. That's a lot of money for someone so young. Alex nodded. "I have it saved up and Tom is betting too. We're partners." James couldn't help but be impressed by Alex's conviction. He decided to take him to the race course where Jetstream would race. It was Alex's first time at a race, and his eyes sparkled with excitement as the horses lined up. When the race began, Jetstream surged ahead and claimed victory, just as Alex had predicted. "I have £1,400 now, Uncle," said Alex, his voice filled with excitement. "If you want to be a partner with Tom and me, we could all share the winnings." But you have to promise. Never tell anyone about the horses we pick. The following afternoon, James took Tom and Alex to the park, where they discussed their plans. When I'm sure about the winner, we win big, Alex explained. But sometimes I'm not sure and then we lose. When are you sure? James asked, intrigued. Tom spoke slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. It's Master Alex, sir. Sometimes it's like he knows something. Almost as if heaven tells him. Alex was absolutely certain that the next race's winner would be Lively Spark. But James had questions. So where's all this money coming from? How much have you won? James asked. I keep it safe for him, Tom replied, nodding. Whenever Master Alex wants his money, I'll give it to him. James was in disbelief. £1,400. Is that really how much he's won? Yes, said Tom. And soon Alex is going to make even more. On the way home, James asked to see Alex's £1,400, and Tom showed him the amount. After a long pause, James finally agreed to become a partner. I'm not always sure, Alex admitted. Sometimes I have a hunch, but other times I don't know at all. But when I'm sure, I know. The next race, the Ledger, was one Alex had no doubt about. He placed £1,000 on Lively Spark, and when the horse won, Alex collected £10,000. James, not as sure as Alex, still managed to win £2,000 on a separate bet. You see, I was absolutely sure that Lively Spark would win, Alex said, his green eyes gleaming. I still don't understand how you're doing this, James said, astonished. What are you going to do with all that money? I want to get money for Mom, Alex explained. She says she has no luck because Dad's unlucky. I want to be lucky so I can stop the whispers in our house. The whispers? James asked, puzzled. Yeah, the house never has enough money and so it keeps whispering. I want to stop it, but I can't tell Mom about my luck. She'd never let me bet on the horses. James nodded, agreeing to keep the secret. Together they made a plan. Alex gave £5,000 to James, who entrusted it to a lawyer. The lawyer would inform Rachel about a distant relative she had never met, who had left her the money. Each year on her birthday, Rachel would receive £1,000 for 5 years. Rachel's birthday arrived in December, and by then, the whispers in the house had grown louder. Alex watched closely as his mother opened the letter from the lawyer at breakfast. But her expression was not one of joy. Instead, her face grew cold and distant. Did you get any presents for your birthday, Mom? Alex asked, hoping for some sign of happiness. Not really, she replied before heading off to the city. Later, James told Alex that Rachel had visited the lawyer. She had large debts and owed money to too many people. The £1,000 was not enough to satisfy her, and she demanded the full £5,000 immediately. Let her have it, Alex said. We can always win more. I'll choose the winners for the Grand National, Lincoln, or Derby. I'll know who's going to win. So Rachel took the £5,000. She spent a lot of it on new furniture and lavish items for the house. She even told Alex he would attend an expensive school in the summer. But then something strange happened. The whispers in the house became shouts. There must be more money, they seemed to say. There must be more money. Alex grew fearful. He spent most of his time with Tom, trying to distract himself from the growing unease. When the day of the Grand National race arrived, Alex felt uncertain. He placed a bet on the wrong horse and lost £150. He wasn't sure who would win the Lincoln either, and he lost £50 more. His anxiety grew. Don't worry, my boy, James reassured him. There's still the Derby coming up. I'm sure you'll know the winner. But Alex's eyes seemed wild and desperate. Even Rachel noticed the change in her son. "Maybe you need a break," she suggested. "Why don't we go to the seaside? The fresh air and sunshine will do you good." "I can't leave before the Derby," Alex insisted. "You care too much about these horse races, Alex. It's not healthy for you," Rachel warned. "Please don't send me away until after the Derby," Alex pleaded. "Please don't send me away from the house." "Do you love this house that much?" Rachel asked in surprise. "I didn't know that," Rachel said, her voice softening. "Very well, you can stay here until after the Derby." There was a secret reason why Alex wanted to stay in the house, a secret he hadn't shared with anyone, not even James or Tom. His secret was the wooden rocking horse, which still didn't have a name. He asked for it to be moved into his bedroom. "Aren't you too old for a rocking horse?" Rachel asked, puzzled. "I can't have a real horse, but this one is a good friend to me," Alex replied. As the day of the Derby drew near, Alex became more and more distant. He lost weight, and his once bright eyes became wild and unsettling. Rachel began to worry about him. 2 nights before the Derby, she and her husband were at a big party, but Rachel's mind kept drifting back to Alex. She suddenly felt uneasy. Fearing something was wrong, she called the house. "Is Alex all right?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Oh yes, he's fine," replied the governess. When Alex's parents returned home around 1 a.m., the house was eerily quiet. Rachel immediately went upstairs to check on her son. As she stood outside his bedroom door, she heard a strange noise coming from within. Her heart raced in fear. What was that noise? It sounded wild, almost mad. It was a sound she recognized but couldn't quite place. She hesitated, then slowly turned the doorknob. Inside it was dark, but by the window she saw something moving. She quickly flicked the light on and gasped in horror. There was Alex, wearing his pajamas, wildly riding his wooden horse. "Alex, what are you doing?" Rachel cried out. "It's Malabar," Alex shouted, his voice strange and wild. "It's Malabar." His eyes were wide with an odd, intense fire as he stared at his mother. He suddenly stopped the horse and fell to the floor in exhaustion. Rachel rushed to him, lifting him into bed. His body was burning hot, and he was dangerously weak. He mumbled constantly in a delirious state, repeating the name. "Malabar, Malabar, Albert. I know it's Malabar." "Who or what is Malabar? What does he mean?" Rachel asked her brother the next day, her heart heavy with dread. "It's the name of a racehorse. Malabar is running in the Derby," James explained. Alex's condition worsened, and by the 3rd day of his illness, he was neither asleep nor awake. His vacant, green eyes stared into nothingness like cold stones. Rachel felt as though her heart was stone too. On the day of the Derby, Tom came to visit. He'd placed a bet on Malabar. "Malabar came in first," he said, his voice quiet but filled with excitement. "I did what you asked. I bet on Malabar. You now have £80,000. Alex, weak and feverish, repeated the name of the horse over and over. "Malabar. Malabar. Do you think I'm lucky, Mother? I knew Malabar would win. £80,000. That's lucky, isn't it, Mother? If I can ride my rocking horse, then I can always know the winner. Did I ever tell you that I'm lucky?" "No," Rachel replied, her voice trembling as she sat by his bedside. Later that night, Alex passed away. James, still in shock, turned to Rachel. "My God," he said quietly. "You have £80,000 now, but you've lost your son. Perhaps it's a blessing that he's gone. At least he's at peace." He will never have to ride that rocking horse again to find a winner.